What do you really want for your children?
Good optimization has shown that it fails 70% of the time in first generation and 90% of the time in 3 generations. That is the results of hundreds of years of good optimization. Well, no, I mean, that's the parable of the prodigal son, right? He wants his inheritance now. What do we learn in that story? The father loved him enough to give him a portion of it and let him fail.
We've never done this before, but I want to read an excerpt from this article. All right, here's what it says. So, Eric, we've been in this conversation for, I think this is probably our fourth or fifth episode regarding this great wealth heist. Mm-hmm. And we talked about how we are in the largest wealth transfer in history.
Yeah.
And it's 60 to 100 trillion plus dollars.
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, I went to a conference a couple weeks ago. I think they now have it up to possibly 140 trillion. Now, here's the other thing. From what I'm understanding, I misunderstood this. They're saying that's just in the U.S.
Oh, my goodness.
Like it could be like 300 trillion if you go global. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I thought that number, every time I heard that number, I always thought that was like a global number. And they're like, no, that's the U.S. number. So that's the reason we're also all over the place.
Right. And what we've highlighted is that this heist that's happening, it's not to come. It's actually happening right now. And you could be a victim of this great wealth heist if you are not aware. So we've been serving as the red pill from the Matrix, uncovering what's going on with this wealth heist and the culprits of this wealth heist.
Do you want to go down the rabbit hole?
Yes. Like, we don't want you guys to be blind. We don't want you in the Matrix taking the blue pill and just getting robbed blind by this wealth heist. So that's why we want to empower you and show you that there is a way to avoid this and to live a life of intentionality with 100+ years of abundance and impact. So I came across this article, Eric, and I want to read this article because I want to let you know, our listeners, we're not just making this stuff up. This is a conversation that's happening, as Eric just said, all over our nation, but also all over the world. And advisors are weighing in with different perspectives. Yep. And if you've been listening to us at all, any of our content, you'll see that our perspectives are a little different than the mainstream flow of the rest of the world or even the rest of the industry. So I want to read this article, Eric, and I would love just to hear your response as we consider this wealth transfer and how people are specifically, our advisors are specifically processing relationships. How do we empower the people, our clients, in the area of relationships as they're processing their children and grandchildren and their heirs and
well, a little bit to that point, just so that we give everybody the perspective. Is so like the world has a method for thinking about transferring assets, and we've kind of identified that as what we call the return on investment method. It's a method that's focused, that on the outset sounds really, really good. How do we just optimize everything? Let's optimize our legal, let's optimize our tax planning, let's optimize our inflation strategy, our business strategy, everything like that. Let's get all the legal and everyone together. And on the outset, that sounds really, really good. But what we know is that only 30% of families are successful getting wealth past the first generation. Right. And only 10% of families are successful in getting it to the third generation, which means 70% of families are failing. And 90% of families are failing after 3 generations. And so what we really kind of identified was what we call the ROI method.
That's right.
Where we came in and we said optimization is important, but it's relationships times optimization equals intention, which means if you want to focus on intention and you're a math person, then what you understand is you can take the relationships and move it underneath intention. So the really great optimization equals intention divided by relationships. And what I found fascinating, and you gave me this article beforehand, so I've read this article as well. Right. What I found fascinating about this is this article is talking to advisors and saying, your only job is optimization, and don't forget that. So again, I think that's going to be compelling for everybody here, because we can kind of make the point of like, this is why I call it the wealth heist. Even the industry is missing the point of how we create. What are the 30% doing and the 10% doing? That's the question that we want to help people unpack and understand. What are they doing really well, and how can you put yourself in that place?
Yeah. And what we're about to uncover is what we talked about as well, the unconscious manipulation. Yeah. There is just a system that's rolling, and it's the return on investment system. That's it. If we just pursue more more money, that's going to be the solution to all of our issues, our family issues, and that's just not true. So I'm just going to take a moment, and this is new. We've never done this before, but I want to read an excerpt from this article. All right, here's what it says.
Yeah, so if you're a family who's listening to this and you're like, man, where am I on this journey? You keep talking about this Great Wealth Heist. We've actually created something called the Great Wealth Heist Assessment that you can get access to. And so we can put that in the link in the description.
Absolutely.
Go take the quiz, and it's going to give you a kind of a pretty good perspective of how you're doing along this lines of the Great Wealth Heist and what things you need to look at changing. And then we'd invite you to maybe, if you don't score as well as you want to, maybe we should have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation and talk more about how to help you adjust that and help you become a part of the 30 and 10% out there that truly is creating 100 plus years of abundance and impact.
All right, here's what it says. Though some of his clients' children are hardworking and independent, our friend increasingly encounters heirs with their hands out seeking support. And when he, as the family advisor, pushes back, he sees the children try to turn the parents against him. The first thing to be said is that there is very often merit on both sides of the situation. On the one hand, there may be significant wealth that the parents will not draw from, and which is the normal course of things, won't pass until the folks do. And on the other hand, you have heirs struggling with mortgage payments on increasingly costly homes, their kids' tuitions, and a whole wave of newly embedded inflation. These are the things they feel their parents should be able to help them with. This simply cannot be the advisor's problem. All right, that's a key statement. This simply cannot be the advisor's problem. Yes, the advisor and the parents got wealthy together over a long time and are indeed friends. This will naturally tend to manifest as the advisor, like our colleague, instinctively rising to the parent's defense, especially if their heirs are grasping, hostile, or both. Surely this is a noble impulse on the advisor's part, but I strongly urge them to resist the impulse. And what he's basically talking about is the impulse of getting involved and leaning into the relational tension.
There's a bigger problem here we're going to talk about in just a second.
All right.
There's a bigger problem.
So the advisor must simply go to the parents and gently lay it all out. This is what the kids are doing and saying. These are the pressures being applied to me, and I need you to take over. So the advisor is putting it in the hands of their clients. Like, no, you deal with the relational stuff. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just here to talk about the return on investment.
And the optimization.
And the optimization. This is a serious conversation the two generations just have to have with each other. I can facilitate, I can advise, but I just can't be in the middle of this. So break this down, Eric, in light of the Kingdom ROI method. What's the issue with this perspective?
Well, the issue is that you're assuming these parents, A, know how to have a healthy conversation with their kids. And I'm not saying that the advisors need to be a counselor, but there is a way to help facilitate conversations that I think we can get engaged with. I mean, that's why inside of the Kingdom ROI method and inside of our family of companies, we have people who are just here for communication dynamics. You know, here to just help families improve and have good conversations, because having good conversations about things that are important is integral. But we're reading this article again. I finally spotted the problem.
Okay.
Like, I found the big ROI method problem versus return on investment problem inside of this. And I'm like, there's an even bigger issue going on. So I'm going to read this because this really is where it hit me. On the one hand, there may be significant wealth that the parents will not draw from, and in which normal course of things won't pass until the folks do. So we're not going to give money to our kids until we pass away.
Right.
Why?
Bequest.
Why? Why are you waiting? If you're going to have significant wealth, why aren't we having intentional and relationship conversations today about lifetime inheritance? What do kids need help with? It even said it here. Mortgage payments on increasingly costly homes, their kids' tuitions, and a whole wave of newly embedded inflation. What comes back to me, is in Psalms where, it talks about a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And so many times you'd think of, well, yeah, no, so what's going to happen here is he's going to, after they pass away, they're going to leave money to their kids and their grandkids. So yeah, no, they've done the right thing. Right. And this is the worldly optimization system that says, yeah, this is how you do it. And it's over and over again. But nobody says, it's like, when the parents pass away, the kids will probably have gotten through those seasons and won't need the money anymore.
Absolutely.
But we're identifying the place that they're struggling. And when I think about that scripture, one of the things that has really come up for me is I really think that's a relational scripture.
Yeah.
And so what if mom and dad were to step in and the advisor were to step in and say, hey, you've got plenty. You're going to be okay. What if we were to help the kids with their mortgage? What would it look like what's on your heart from an intentionality standpoint? What would it look like to help with your grandkids' tuition? Because what opens up is not only the possibility of helping financially, but the opportunity to speak relationally into what that money is doing and how it's impacting them. Sit down with their grandkids and say, hey, we're paying for your tuition because these are the things we value as a family. These are the things that are important to us. These are the things that are meaningful to us. And this is the type of stuff the 10% do that the other 90% don't. And that's why when we look at this great wealth transfer, I'm saying it's a great wealth heist. And here we have someone saying, hey, they're already caught up, again, at the very first of this article, they're already caught up in the system of we don't leave an inheritance until mom and dad pass away.
Right. And what's implicit is fear.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that.
We don't want to start handing this out. We don't want to start doing lifetime inheritance because what if? What if we lose everything? What if there's not enough? And what's interesting, he made the point of writing, this person has significant wealth.
Right.
So that comes to show you that just because you have more doesn't deal with the fear issue, which is of the heart, and the scarcity
issue. Well, and
issue.
Here's another thing, too, that is inherent in the industry. We call it the unconscious manipulation. But what if this advisor is compensated by how much money they have under management, right? And so it's coming down from on high. Hey, don't recommend that these parents give an inheritance you're going to have less to manage. Right? You wouldn't want to have less money to make. You wouldn't want to make less income by helping this family. And again, I don't think it's explicit, but it's this underlying unconscious manipulation that they don't recognize as happening. They're not having this conscious decision of, well, I don't want to help this family because I want to make more money. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
But it is subconsciously and unconsciously happening.
That's so true. And that's why it's important, because one thing that we push here is we want to be an advocate for families.
That's right.
To achieve this 100+ years of abundance and impact. And an advocate really does put the family first.
The 100+ years of the family. We're not just thinking about mom and dad, but we're thinking about the impact and abundance that this family is going to have, and the great-grandchildren, children who are not even born today. Right? We're thinking about how this is going to ripple through and the unintended consequences of decisions we might make today and how that's going to ripple through. And so you get this lifetime inheritance becomes that's where I was like, that was my big aha in reading this. Like, man, that's it. Because lifetime inheritance is a vehicle of passing the number one thing that we say that these successful families do is pass wisdom.
Right.
It's a vehicle for passing wisdom. Inheritance is not the only way. Generosity is another way to pass wisdom. There are other paths and other ways to do that, but it is one of the ways. And then the other thing that gets to be in here, so we're going to ignore and maybe bury our head in the sand over the vehicle that could get into intention relationships. But not only that, what we're going to communicate to the advisor is this cannot be the advisor's problem. Your only role is to help them do optimization. And my challenge to the advisor stuck in that. And I'm going to tell you, I was there for many years. And what I'm going to say is there are really good advisors out there who are sensing this, who are going, man, something's wrong. This doesn't feel right. It feels yucky. But then they go back to, and there's Nobel Prizes given around these theories, and there's legal papers written, and there's stuff coming down from on high. And they're like, well, maybe I'm just crazy. It certainly doesn't feel right, but maybe I'm just crazy. And being told this is not your problem, but it's like, well, whose problem is it? Who's going to come in and help the family? What family is going to say, hey, I recognize we have a communication problem. We need help. Where can I go to get help? You know, and one of the things we were talking about before the show, I mean, you got to be very careful. I want to make sure we're saying what we're saying and not saying what we're saying. We're not counselors.
No.
You know, part of our job sometimes is to go, hey, you need to bring in professionals.
Right. And what we say is we help good families get to better communication.
Yes.
Good families. So families who they've already have a foundation, but if they just had someone give them some extra tools and some vision, they can go to that next level. So yeah, we're not counselors. We've recommended families pursue deeper counseling and things like that, but that's not what we do as advisors. And I know what you're thinking if you're listening to this, like, wait a minute, Eric, you guys are a unicorn. Like, there's no other financial advisor out there talking about this and doing this kind of stuff. And we recognize that we're
I'm hoping, and the reason I made the comment about the other advisors is I'm hoping we're creating an awakening.
Exactly.
Right? I'm hoping this is a movement of other advisors going, yeah, something is wrong and something does need to be done differently. I want to awaken the unconscious manipulation.
Yeah.
There's too much work to be done. Right. So, I mean, we are a unicorn, but I'm not out here saying we're the only people that can do it. There's too much work to be done. If you've got that much money changing hands, we can't get involved in all 120 trillion. That's not our job. But what if we could awaken other advisors and other professionals who go, you know, something's wrong. And I would tell you, if you're an advisor listening and you're like, I want to know more of what's wrong, reach out to us, because I'd love to have a conversation with other advisors who are in the space who are feeling that unconscious manipulation, because I think it is a movement.
And absolutely. And I would say this is our differentiator.
Yeah.
You know, so there's many advisors out there doing good optimization.
Yeah.
But the whole point of us talking about this subject is that good optimization alone will not get you to the 100+ years of abundance and impact.
No, good optimization has shown that it fails 70% of the time in first generation and 90% of the time in 3 generations. That is the results of hundreds of years of good optimization.
Yep, and we call it the unintended consequences of building wealth.
Yeah.
The unintended. So once you get from just the optimization to focusing on the relationships and having these conversations, it's all relational. Because what I saw in the article, Eric, what was being brought up was, how do you deal with entitlement?
Sure.
How do you deal with children who believe that what you've worked hard for is rightfully theirs and they want it now? Like, how do you have that?
Almost like Jesus had a parable on that.
Tell us more.
Well, no, I mean, that's the parable of the prodigal son, right? He wants his inheritance now. What do we learn in that story? The father loved him enough to give him a portion of it and let him fail. He had enough wisdom to love him enough to let him go out and fail, and in his failure, he came back to the father.
That's so good.
You know, everyone's going to have a different path. Don't hear me saying, oh, well, then if your kids are really doing some dumb things, you should go ahead and give them some money. Everything should be done in prayer and wisdom. Right. This is not like you just willy-nilly go do things. But if you feel God nudging you to go ahead and do that, it doesn't mean it's wrong. You know, even in the middle of the disaster, God, I mean, that's one of the things we talk a lot about that, that comes up in that part of the story or in this entitlement is God, we truly believe God is writing a redemption story in everyone. But you don't get redemption without the pit. Yeah. Without falling into things not going well. And so many times what we want to do is we want to yank our kids out of the pit, or we want to pull people out of their situation, and you don't get a testimony that way. Yeah.
And the power of that parable is that the father was present and engaged.
Absolutely.
You know, what if the father would have said, you know what, I'm just going to let him be. I'm going to keep all of my money, but I'm just going to give it to him after I die. There was even more opportunity for destruction.
Correct.
Because he was there to receive him back.
Absolutely.
And to love him and to give him that lesson. You know, so.
But it was about the relationship.
It's the relationship. It's the relationship.
But even in that parable, what is so valuable is the son who stuck around, right? Who he had some bitterness and some anger too. Like, hey, I didn't get this, and this son of yours who squandered all of this. But the father also had a chance to speak into that relationship too. Yeah. And so many times what I really, things won't pass until the folks do. You know what the number one problem with that is, especially from a communication standpoint? The dead can't speak.
Yeah.
So mom and dad could have had the best intentions in the whole world, but after they pass away, you're now sitting on the receiving end of what mom and dad are doing, and everything's being filtered through what those children believe is true about mom and dad, whether it's true or not. And mom and dad are not there to defend, to answer for, or to give any reasoning behind what they're doing. And that's why this communication and relational element is so important, because if we can get into those communication dynamics up front and we can talk about, hey, here's what's going to happen and here's why we're going to do it. Even if the kids don't like it, at least they can hear their parents' intention behind it.
That's right. That's right. So when it comes to lifetime inheritance, that's the beauty of it. You're there. You're there to speak wisdom. You're there to guide. You're there to even, I love what you said, allow your kids to fail sometime.
So hard.
One of the keys to not enabling is letting them bump their head. Because once they bump their head, you can pick them up and comfort them and say, okay, let me show you what happened here. Let me share some wisdom with you.
I'll give you another quick perspective, which again, I kind of go to, we've lost, but this is the being in the relational side of it, but also letting kids fail. There's a great little book out there by Coventry Edwards Pitt, I think is her name, called Raised Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. Mm-hmm. And it's a story of kind of what did the 10% and that 30% do really, really well. One of the elements that they did really well was let their kids embrace failures, especially in their 20s. 20s is a hard time. It's a hard time right now with inflation and everything else going on. But what they found was the 20s are such a time of shaping that any kids who got bailed out or felt like their parents were the backup and weren't going to have to fail, that's where the will failed. Yeah. And it comes back to creating those opportunities for the wisdom, but wisdom is only going to happen in relationships. And if we keep telling an advisory community that can't be your problem, or I need you to take over, or I can't be in the middle of this, then from a fiduciary standpoint, we're ultimately failing our clients. And that's my conviction, especially when our mandate is 100 plus years of abundance and impact.
Yeah. And the question may be, Eric, somebody listening, like, how does that happen though with an advisor? Because this is foreign to a lot of people. When engaging with their advisor is just talking about this, the optimization, but what does it practically look like? And I've had the opportunity to sit with so many different families in our team and see how that plays out. And one of the biggest parts of the process is relationship. So like we're relationship all around as a company. And one of the best way to guide in this particular area is by asking questions. Like, what do you really want for your children? And oftentimes it starts with inheritance conversations. Like, oh, I really want, I'm going to pay for their college. Yeah. I want to get them a vehicle. I want to, put some money aside for them to, start a business one day if they want to. And it's all the money side. And then we keep asking the question, but what else? What else? And at some point, all the optimization side of things are exhausted, and they stop and they think. And that's when this comes up.
Well, can I talk about this? Because this has been such a passion of mine. We were talking about this yesterday in another podcast I was doing. So my oldest is 24. Mm-hmm. Clayton is 24. And you don't know what your kids are catching when you're going through. But I mean, if you've listened to other podcasts and things like that, generosity has been a huge part of Angel and I's journey. It's been a huge part of engaging with our kids. So I still see his bank accounts. And at some point I need to stop. It's not like I'm trying to see. He's just still linked up to everything that we have because he's raised in my house. And I watched him move a big portion of money. I said, hey, Clayton, he moved it into a savings account. I was like, hey, I think you could make a little bit more interest if you put that money into a money market. So I know you may not want to, that may not be money to invest. That's okay. Huge amount of money. He goes, oh, no. That's my generosity giving money. I just haven't gotten around to giving yet. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's a tear moment.
That would be a tear moment. Yeah, for me. I'm like, that is cool. You recognize how important generosity is. You've carved that off and put that in. And to me, it was like, but that's happened in relationships, and transparency and conversation. And then the DNA has been implanted in him. Right. Guess what? That's going to then get implanted in my grandchildren. And my great-grandchildren. But it started through relationships and conversation.
And that's why I'm going to finish this statement from the advisor side. Once we start asking those questions and they get down to the relational, like what they really want, like they don't want it. They want their kids to be responsible. They want their kids to live generously. And that's when we begin to help them have those conversations and model that. Like so many different, experiences that we've created our team And Taya is the name of the person. You probably see her on some of our content if you do a deep dive into our content. And she's, I don't know how many books that she's read about relationship.
And how much training she's done.
And all the training of helping families get clear on their mission, their vision, and their values. So we become a guide. Mm-hmm. So we're not therapists, and we're not doing everything for the client, but we're willing at times to even have the tough conversations and say, hey, there's a gap. You're missing out on the relational piece. Can we talk about that? Yeah. And sometimes we get pushback. Sometimes people don't want to talk about the relational piece.
Just do the optimization.
But for those who lean into it, I wish I had all the stats in front of me of 40 years of doing this, of helping families. We have the stats of how when you focus on the relationship and have the good optimization.
Oh my goodness.
It produces results. And it's family results, value results, clarity results, but also financial impact.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and again, I'm going to come back to my family only because, if I'm not living it out, then I don't. And we've seen this happen with other families too. It's just where my family is in the space. So when my kids are younger, I'm like, man, I don't know how well they'd handle an inheritance. So Angel and I've kind of been like, I don't know how much I'm going to leave them, right? Because they're younger and their concrete isn't set. And if I pass away right now, I don't want them to have a whole lot because I really want them to kind of. But as you start to see that maturity show up, hey, here's the money I'm setting aside on my own for my giving, and I'll watch how the other kids mature. I go, well, that's a kid I could leave some more money to.
Yeah.
Right? So as I get older, I might decide to increase his inheritance because I've been able to speak relationally and watch how he's going to steward that and go, no, he'd do a good job with that. I could trust him with more. That's scriptural too, by the way.
Yeah. So Eric, you're telling me that inheritance is not based on fairness?
No.
Everybody gets the same? Because some people think that way. That I don't want to be unfair to my other children.
We're gonna run out of time. We maybe do this another time. But I mean, now we're stepping into the parable of the talents. God doesn't give money based on equality. God gives, God grants blessing based on how well you steward it. And I think we absolutely need to think about that. Yeah. The same way from an inheritance standpoint, stewardship matters.
Yes, you've been faithful over the little things.
Absolutely.
And now you can have more to steward.
That's another part of this great wealth heist is the equality portion. We wait till mom and dad die, and then we just do we got 3 kids, we go a third, a third, a third. Like, what? Who said that was the right rule? None of that is based in truth or in long-term success, but that's the rules that, at least in the U.S., we've set up of how we think about inheritance, and it has nothing to do with the relationship and why this won't work. It's why I call it the great wealth heist. This type of system will facilitate the 70% failure after one generation and the 90% failure after 3 generations, and the industry has no interest in changing it because if it fails, it goes to them.
That's right.
And then they benefit.
And I just want to make this last connection before we end this episode. We're 2 minutes out. But business owners, this is for you and your business as well.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Because I'm as an employee of Kingdom ROI, there's been conversations even about generosity, the way that we model generosity within our company and how we have employee giving meetings, that I took these principles and values and brought it into my home. Because I grew up in church, but we were taught a one way to give. All right, just make sure you tithe. Yeah. And you can automate your tithe and the money just flies out the account. You don't even think about it at some point. But the fact that we as a team once a month will get together and every employee will be able to share a need that they see in their community. And we pray about how can we be a blessing to these individuals, families, and organizations. And now I'm actually implementing that in my family. So even business owners, this idea of return on intention is relationship times optimization equals intention. Yep. That applies for your business as well. Yeah. Do you want your business to last 100+ years beyond you? Yeah. You want to go through a healthy exit to where it can continue on. There is a way to do that. If you want to learn more about this, please reach out to us. You can always reach me at chris@kingdomroi.org, and we would love to continue to have this conversation. But, man, think about what we're talking about because we're taking you down the rabbit hole of return on intention and guarding you against this wealth heist.
Hey, do this real quick. Reach over there and grab off screen that book.
Boom.
So this is a book that I wrote called At the Bistro with Bob. This is Bob Pritchard, who's a gentleman who mentored me for a number of years. And this is the story of our relationship and our mentorship. But there's a lot of this relational component that sits inside of this book. And so down in the links, we're going to put, I don't know if it's a 99-cent copy or a free copy.
Even if you email us, if you're listening to this episode, email us and say, I listened to the Kingdom ROI podcast, send me a book, and we'll send you a free book. We'll love to connect with you.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Have a great day.
God bless you.